Hello. So before we get into today's video, I just want to explain my post from yesterday because I said I didn't know what my schedule was going to look like. And that's because yesterday afternoon was a very, very bad experience. My stepdad, the mental side of things, was not in a very good place. Poor decisions were being made. Bridges, many of which he doesn't have, were being burned, and I really didn't know what was going to happen minute to minute. And I personally was in a very dark place with this. But thankfully, this morning, it seems like there is a bit of clarity to the situation. It seems like things are happening, plans are being made. He's, at least for now, kind of understanding the severity of the situation and that he needs to realize that, he's not in control and he needs to do what he needs to do. Um, I will spare you the details, although it sounds like a Lifetime movie. But I say all that to say that, just kind of bear with me in the next little bit. I plan on still being able to provide content and stuff like that, because honestly, for me, it feels good. It feels nice to take my mind off of all that stuff, because every time my phone rings, every time I get a text message, I honestly get a shiver up my spine because I'm like, oh my God, what's happened now? But yeah, I enjoy making videos. I like being able to talk with you guys, and maybe it helps some of you guys take your mind off of things, but just bear with me for a little bit. Things might get crazy. I'm hopeful that we've made some good progress in the past 12 hours and stuff like that, but it's kind of going to be a wait and see thing. With all that being said, though, I do want to talk about something today because we learned a lot of stuff in yesterday's Nintendo Direct. It was honestly, like I said, an insane Nintendo Direct. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I thought it was the best, because I didn't. I just thought the lunacy of it and just the almost randomness of it was one of the more fun aspects, especially like the Virtual Boy stuff. I mean, come on, man. It's the Virtual Boy. Who doesn't love the Virtual Boy besides like everyone? But like, I'm super stoked for that. And I thought some of the announcements were really cool as well. Resident Evil Requiem, I made a full video on it, check it out, from yesterday. But one of the things I wanted to do a follow-up on was something that was discussed in the Mario 40th anniversary celebration, which took up the first 20 minutes of the presentation. And that, of course, is involving Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 being in a 2-pack coming to the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. And I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, I already own Super Mario Galaxy. I have this because I was one of the lucky people who bought the 3D All-Stars collection, consisting of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and the first Super Mario Galaxy. So when I saw that the games would be available individually, digitally, I was kind of like, oh, well, I don't really need the physical version. I can just pick up the digital edition of Super Mario Galaxy 2 and be on my merry way. But shortly after the Nintendo Direct, we then learned about the price point of this, and this has become quite a talking point on social media, and I kind of want to look at it from different perspectives and try and see if I can make sense of this, because Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 in a 2-pack is $70. That is a premium Nintendo game price. And if you buy the games individually on the eShop, they're $40 a piece. So technically 80 if you buy them individually, or 70 if you buy it together. Now, I'm not sure if there is a 2-pack digitally that's $70, but I feel like something like this is really going to appeal to people that probably already had the 3D All-Stars collection. You got to remember, that was a limited time thing. Luckily, you can still re-download it if you purchased it. But if you didn't own a Nintendo Switch at that time, you were out. And to see these games going for $40 a pop is very kind of confusing to a lot of people. If you look at the aforementioned 3D All-Stars collection, that included 3 games for $60. Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. Now, all of those games did have some improvements done to them in terms of like visual fidelity. They added in widescreen to some of the stuff as well, and they added in some bonus content in terms of like soundtracks and stuff like that. Now, there were questions about that game being $60 when it first came out, but you got 3 games, you know, 2 really good games, 1 game that, I mean, it's Super Mario Sunshine. It's not a good game. But now it seems like we're paying a higher premium for just 2 games. When you look at things like the Wii U and the eShop on the Wii U, now granted, nobody owned a Wii U. I had one, but you could buy Wii games on there for $20 a pop. Now, granted, it didn't have the visual fidelity upgrades and stuff like that, but still, you could still access the game for $20, which is now $40 a pop. You can even look at other games that released on the Nintendo Switch, such as Metroid Prime Remastered. That was a complete remaster of the game, not just an upscaling of the game and cleaning up the textures a little bit. No, they redid all of the textures in the game, and that game was $40. Now, of course, Metroid doesn't have the same name brand as Mario does, but when you think about other decisions Nintendo has made with this, like, yeah, I get it. You know, I think it's going to be 4K resolution on the Switch too, and they're beautiful looking games. Like, don't get me wrong, and they're super fun games. At least the first one is. I never played the second one. Spoiler alert. So I'm looking at it from the perspective of, you know, I already own Galaxy, but I got to pay $40 for Galaxy 2 just to play that, or $70 to buy a game that I already own. And I understand that might be a case-by-case basis, but you kind of got to look at the optics of the situation, especially considering one of the most graphically pleasing and probably largest undertakings of a Nintendo Switch 2 game is a game, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Now, I played the game originally on the PlayStation 4. The game did release on the PlayStation 5 exclusively with the Intergrade content, which adds in additional story content of Yuffie. So, technically speaking, this is a PlayStation 5 game being brought over to the Nintendo Switch 2. And they announced the price of this. This game is 90 gigabytes. You can get a game key card for $40. And I think when you kind of take a step back and look at it, you kind of got to question Nintendo's pricing on this. I'm not saying that there needs to be a boycott or anything like this. Obviously, you can do whatever you want to do with your own money. But I do feel like it smells a little greedy. It smells greedy to me. It's like, bro, you're not like completely remaking these games. You're just, you know, essentially running them through an emulator and upscaling them and then putting them on the Switch and Switch 2. And one of the games you've already released on the Nintendo Switch. Like, why couldn't this have been $50? Or even $60, like, and $30 a pop? I think that's a little bit easier to swallow. But when you're saying $70 or $40 each digitally, optically speaking, it's a very, very questionable decision. But in the same breath, I understand the decision, because guess what, kiddos? The game's gonna sell. It'll sell. It'll sell at 70. People will buy them individually at 40 because people are just obsessed with Mario. Like, oh, it's Mario's 40th. I can need these games again. It's like, yeah, you know, I understand that. But if we keep kind of feeding into this, it's just going to happen more and more. And when you look at the pricing of other games, you know, both on the Switch and the Switch 2, and historically speaking, how Nintendo has, you know, treated classic games with things like the Virtual Console as opposed to Nintendo Switch Online, you know, it definitely feels like a little bit of a different Nintendo. Maybe a little bit more modern is what people would say, but I definitely feel like there is something a bit different in the air when it comes to them. But at the end of the day, it is business. And if people are buying what you're selling, you know, you sell it. If people don't buy it, then you start to look at price drops. But for me personally, I probably will wait on Galaxy 2 to get maybe on a sale or something like that. Maybe they knock a few bucks off the price of it. Because for me, it's kind of like, I feel like my $40 can go to something else, you know, something a bit, you know, not a Wii game that's been upscaled, but I don't know, you know, I might end up buying it. Who knows? Because I mean, I can make a video on it and share my thoughts on it as someone who's played this game for the first time, but I also could just, you know, play it on an emulator and upscale it to 4K. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments section down below, what do you think about Nintendo's pricing strategy for Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2's Dual Pack? What do you think about the individual price points of these games at $40? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's good? Do you think it sucks? There is no right or wrong answer. It's just down to your personal preference and how you view the industry and how you want to spend your dollar. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.